Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff. This is Coffee with Cannon, my early morning show, early afternoon show. Uh, we got the news yesterday that police officer Wilbert Mora had passed away from the shooting that occurred. So he's the second 3-2 police officer. His partner, police officer Rivera, had died shortly after this attack on these two officers. Um, it's somber. It's a somber time for New York City. Uh, I just want to also mention P.O. Sumit Sulan, who is a huge hero in my mind and in the mind of a lot of New York City folks. I want to put up on the screen. That's Officer Wilbert Mora from the 3-2 precinct. A very proud precinct. Officer Mora was, I believe, a 4-year veteran. You can't say enough about these two guys. They had all, you look at them, they had filled with life, filled with love, filled with great expectations for their life, love for being a police officer, for what that meant being a police officer. Um, this is the put up with the Department Police Officer Wilbert Moore. It's on the screen. 32nd Precinct, New York City Police Department. End of watch, January 25th, 2022. We as police and will always be police. We're sick to our stomach over this. We really are sick over this. The other night, I had on Chief Louis Anamone, the former chief of department, the NYPD, a former commanding officer of the 3-2 precinct, and Irvin Urbina, who is the 3-2 precinct. And Urbina, not just noted for being a good detective, a great detective, but a great human being. He was the go-to guy in the 3-2 precinct when you had a problem at home with your family. You had any kind of, he would get up in the middle of the night and help anybody. He was the Detective Endowment Association trustee from the 3-2, and he was known all over Manhattan North and known all over the city. I'm going to be joined right now by my usual co-host, and he was available today, so I'm going to bring him in, a retired NYPD Detective Phil Grimaldi. Phil, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing okay, Billy, but it's a sad day that we lost Police Officer Mora yesterday. And I think the police commissioner said it best when she said he was a hero 3 times over, that he dedicated his life to being a police officer, a man of service. He gave his life for the city of New York, and then in death, he gave his organs to possibly save the life of others. And what more could you ask from a human being? I mean, that's a triple hero, and we're going to honor him, and we're going to send condolences to his family, obviously. But tragically, we lost a really good young man, and I just hope that his family finds peace, and I hope that he rests in peace.
Folks, on the screen, I have what Detective Grimaldi, Phil Grimaldi, was referring to. Police Commissioner Keechant Sewell says Wilbert is 3 times a hero for choosing a life of service, for sacrificing his life to protect others, for giving his life even in death through organ donation. Our heads are bowed and our hearts are heavy. And that's for sure. I mean, organ donation, amazing. And I think, we knew the other night that when he was transported to NYU Langone, we knew that wasn't good. That wasn't good information that we received. We understood what was going on, but it's not our job or anyone else's job to be first to announce it. I think that has to be private. I'm sure the family knew what was going on. Of course, they knew. And yeah, he's 3 times a hero. And we really we're really suffering because a lot of this stuff is because of policies that have been restricted the police on doing their job. Policies on mental illness that have allowed mentally ill people to walk these streets. And a lot of these progressives, and I want to walk this back because I don't believe this in many people, and they start yelling this stuff as soon as there's a gun crime. And even when there's thousands of them, they say, oh, we got to stop the guns. No, stop the people with the guns. The guns don't shoot anyone unless someone pulls the trigger. All right. So let's stop that nonsense. You have to go after the people that are carrying the guns and the people that are shooting these guns, not the iron highway, you call it, from the South. That's part of the long-term plan. All right. But the short-term plan there are 300 million guns in the hands of U.S. citizens, many of them legal, many of them illegal. All right. So therefore, the police have to be empowered to take the guns off the street from the waistbands of the criminals who carry them. And to do that, they need to do their job and utilize what's called stop, question, and frisk. And the press and progressives have demonized that procedure. And that procedure is the procedure that protects police. It's the procedure that protects citizens. And it's the procedure that takes guns out of the hands of criminals.
Billy, I think you're really hitting the nail right on the head there. A few years back, when Stop, Question, and Frisk was, put on the burner, the back burner, so to speak, where they talked about how it was targeting minorities, it was overused, and then you had the anti-crime units in every precinct. There was citywide anti-crime as well as local anti-crime in every precinct in the city. Obviously, officers that were in plain clothes. You and I both worked in anti-crime. You actually worked in street crime as well, which was a citywide anti-crime unit. I mean, it was targeted towards getting guns off the street, targeting the areas where people are carrying guns, gangbangers, whatever. And when all of that came to a screeching halt a few years back, it became very clear and obvious that no one was afraid. None of the young guys that are on the street, they weren't afraid to carry guns. Obviously, there's the people that are bringing the guns in. But if you have a deterrence where people are afraid to carry a gun because they know they're going to get arrested, and if they get arrested, there's going to be bail, another thing, bail reform, and then they know that they could be facing up to 3 to 5 years in jail, whatever it is. It used to be 1 year, then they raised it to 3 years. If these people know that they're going to get caught with a gun, they're going to be doing time, they're not going to get no bail, they're going to be bail on them to get out of jail, and maybe they got to come up with that money, or they may face 3 years in jail. That's a deterrence. That's where you got to start with this thing. So if you have those things in place, and I think the other night when we had Chief Anamone on, he hit the nail right on the head. We as the police department need to do our job. Go out, make the arrest. If the district attorney's office, like Alvin Bragg and the others too, I'm not going to only alienate him, that he's come out with that policy that he's not going to charge specific crimes and stuff like that. But the other DAs are following suit. When it started out with the minor marijuana possession, the drinking in public, the urinating in public, the jumping the turnstile, they all fell into lockstep that they're not going to charge those crimes. So you know what? We'll make the arrest. And if they don't charge it, it's on them. And if the case has to get deferred, the arrest is deferred, that's fine. We're doing our job. We're arresting them. You don't want to prosecute them, now it's on you. And I think if a light is shining on that, there will be pressure on the politician, through the politicians, on the politicians to change the laws and to actually put pressure on these DAs to start charging these crimes. And then we will see a reduction in these violent crimes. We will see a reduction in the violent felonies that are taking place. And then we have the other, the part of it that really has been in the news lately with the, they're calling them homeless, but they're mentally ill, that are either drug addicted or mentally ill, that are, they're a scourge on the city, specifically in the transit system. So we know what has to be done. Chief Anamone came up with a great idea. I think that the police department needs to engage, do what we have to do, and we will get the support of the city.
Phil, up on the screen, folks, I just want to mention this. If you go onto Venmo and put in Quack 32 PCT, and the account belongs to Scott DiBiseglio, who is a member of the 32 precinct. That money specifically, if you choose to donate, is going to feed the officers of the 32 precinct. And, they're suffering now more than any other members of the service. They worked with these three brave officers. And if you want to, and I'm not putting any pressure on anybody, I personally donated myself, and it's Quack 32 precinct.
I just wrote it down, Billy, myself.
The account belongs to Scott DiBiseglio, so you know that the money's going to the right place. The other place where you can donate, and that's for the families of the two officers that were killed, and it's called Fund the First. And it's run by active detective Robert Garland. All right. And the reason I'm telling you this is because there's a lot of scam GoFundMe accounts on social media this is the one to go to. I can guarantee you it's a legit account. It's called Fund the First. It's a professionally run crowdfunding source. So if you do want to donate to the families, there's over $300,000 was donated in the last 3 days. So it's doing well. But there was also, that was before Officer Mora died. So again, I won't mention it again, Fund the First or Quack 32 PCT. If you want to donate, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And you guys, the Police Off the Cuff family, you've been great during this whole time. And we appreciate your support. I just want to play a little bit of a news report on Officer Mora when they announced that that he had passed away yesterday.
Potentially.
I'm sorry. I think I get the wrong one up here. Oh no, hey, we'll play a little bit of this.
Shot in Harlem Friday. The 5th NYPD officer shot this month alone, the second to lose his life. Wilbert Mora was shot while responding to a domestic violence call. His partner, Jason Rivera, was shot too, but didn't make it. A funeral for him will be held this Friday. The NYPD says they were shot by a stolen gun owned by LaShawn McNeil. He's suspected of shooting the officers in a gun battle. He died Monday. Mayor Eric Adams announced Tuesday a plan to combat violence. It includes bringing back the anti-gun unit, targeting 30 precincts where he says 80% of violence takes place.
The type of plainclothes anti-gun unit we're going to use, they're going to be real guardrails. Number one, everyone is going to keep their video cameras on. Too many officers were turning off their cameras when they had interactions with civilians. So we're going to have precision policing to target those areas of the 30 precincts, 80% of the violence in the city. Many of them are around our NYCHA facilities. The residents there are crying for help.
Mayor Adams wants to implement that anti-gun unit in the next 3 weeks. Public defenders in the city say it would reinstate a unit that they say targets minorities.
Folks, you know, this is a little bit too little, too late. You know, I think that first of all, I don't think Adams really is a crime fighter, and I can say that I'm not on the police department. I have to worry about repercussions from him. He was never a crime fighter himself, but now he's talking tough. But they're just dipping their toes in the water, and they're seeing what level of pushback they get from the radical anarchists in this city. Because you say the word anti-crime, and they're like, "Oh my God!" You know, look, let's be quite frank here. You know, if they're going to talk about targeting certain groups, 80% of the violent crime is done by young male blacks. So who should we be targeting? You know, let's face it. And I know that's an impolitical correct statement, but it happens to be a fact. So what you need plainclothes officers out there. They're already like, oh, wear a police vest. You just ruined the whole, you know, the stealthiness of being a plainclothes officer. If you're wearing, why don't you put them in a clown suit? No, they need, and then of course they want them to wear body-worn video too. So like, Adams, are you serious about fighting crime, or you just dipping your toes in the water? I think you're just dipping your toes in the water, because as soon as there's an incident with one of these plainclothes incidents, you're going to run for the hills. I know you will. And I just want to make a statement also about some of these folks that have been hanging out for photo ops in front of the 3-2 precinct. Many of them are the same people that 6 months ago were the defund the police crowd. So they're wolves in sheep's clothing, you know. So let's know who our friends are, and let's know who our enemies are.
You know, I want to point out specifically, Billy, I'm just glad that you brought that up. Jamani Williams, who was the public advocate, he was the loudest voice of the defund the polices in New York. He took a strong stance against the police department during all the Black Lives Matter riots that occurred about a year and a half ago. I guess it was the summer of 2020, after the Derek Chauvin incident with I forget the guy's name, but the bottom line is this: he was one of the loudest voices, and he became another loud voice when Adams decided to bring back anti-crime. And I have a problem with the fact that he's only going to put it in 30 precincts, but we'll talk about that. But he was one of the people that stood up in front of the cameras as well. We want to monitor this and see what are they going to do different from the policing that's been going on recently. I want to monitor it. I want to keep a close eye on it. Yeah, well, we're going to do things different. We're going to start going after guys that are carrying guns and taking the guns off the street. And you know what that's going to do? That's going to save black lives, brown lives, white lives, whatever. It's going to save lives. Okay, Jumaane Williams, that's what it's going to do. Now, I just wanted to comment one last thing. I have a problem with the fact that he's only going to put it in 30 precincts. He's going to put it in the high crime precincts or the precincts with the most shootings and stuff. It needs to be in every precinct. That's why the citywide anti-crime, street crime, is the one that if there is an area where there's a lot of gang shootings and stuff, the resources are sent there to back up the local anti-crime, the precinct anti-crime. So I think that policy it's a step in the right direction. Billy, you hit the nail right on the head. He's tipping his toe into the water to try and gain political favor and say, look, this is what I'm going to do. But we need a full push. We need anti-crime in every precinct in the city, every housing location in the city, every transit location. There needs to be plainclothes officers, and putting some kind of a vest on an anti-crime office is completely counter to the whole concept of anti-crime. Anti-crime is called a plainclothes unit for a reason. Now, they wear sometimes the color of the day, which obviously they could be identified by other officers, uniform officers on a call where things can get chaotic. And so that they're not, they don't get shot or they don't get mistaken for bad guys. But to wear a vest that is a police vest on a plainclothes officer is completely ridiculous. I don't know where that's coming from, but if they enact that, you may as well, like you said, put the cops in a clown suit and let them go out there, because it's completely counter to the whole concept of plainclothes anti-crime.
James T. Ryder from the Feel Good Foundation, whose brother Patrick is the police commissioner
Good
of
man.
Nassau County. James, thank you so much for that $5 super chat and for your hashtag never forget the heroes, and we won't. I just want to also, part of the outrageousness of this, and I feel empowered, and I want to talk for the cops, because cops are not allowed to talk when they're on the police department. Jumaane Williams was there talking about giving money to violence interrupters. That's the last people we need to give money to. We need to refund the police, and people like you should just shut up, because you have nothing about police work. It's just like, it's a money grab. It's a money grab for these people.
Exactly.
And you know something?
Exactly.
We don't need you now. 2 cops were just murdered. And you're spouting your left-wing rhetoric nonsense, And I know people in the police department would love to call you out, but they can't. I'm calling you out, And the other thing I see, Sharpton's daughter in the front of the 3 precinct, the National Action Network. Are you kidding me? When did they ever care about police? And they still don't. Another organization probably getting federal funds to do whatever they're doing. This is disgraceful. We need to support the police, and we need to fund the police, not defund. And they're paying the price for this. They're paying the price for this progressive nonsense, this progressive wokeness. We now have a district attorney in Manhattan, Alvin Bragg, who's going to be a disaster. He's going to be an absolute, I don't care if he just got in office in January. His policies are already a disaster. And look what's happening on these streets. And for the press, it's not called stop and frisk. It's called stop, question, and frisk. Get that right, or don't report it.
And you know what, Billy? I think you hit the nail right on the head. It's a money grab with all of these community organizers, community leaders. That's what Jumaane Williams started out as. I remember when I was in the 7-1 many years ago, he'd be showing up at different, when it was any kind of community unrest. And instead of trying to, enact calm in a community situation where there was unrest, they would always ramp it up and throw gasoline onto the fire, just like a Sharpton, almost identical. They come from the same school of it's all about money. It's a money grab. I agree with you 1,000%. He needs to be called out. The only person that should decide where money is going, funding is going, if they refund the $1 billion that was taken away by the de Blasio administration, is Obviously, the mayor has some say in it, but the police commissioner and the upper echelon of the police department, they know what's going on in the city. They know where to target training. They know where to target assets where there's gun crimes, violence, the subways, all of these different things. Let them decide. Not Jumaane Williams talking about giving money to violence interrupters, where half of them are gangbangers that allegedly reformed or whatever. But there might be a spot for people like that to talk to youth in the city before they get into.
Yeah, you know, Phil, you know who they are? They're guys like boxing for kids. Pat Russo, retired NYPD sergeant. Let's put the money into kids program before they get in trouble. Not these community organizers that are just stealing the money and, you know, and then acting like they're violence interrupters. Where did that concept come from? You know who are violent interrupters? Police. That's who are the violent interrupters. Phil, I'm just going to play a little bit more of a video here, a touching video, touching little video right there. But that, you know, we're very intense about this and very emotional because it's affecting the whole New York City. You know, citizens. How about citizens going about their lives, having to step over homeless people? How about getting on the subway to go to work in the morning and you can't sit down because there's 3 homeless people sleeping in your car, and no one will put their hands on them to get them out of there because they've demonized the police. Police put their hands on someone, they're oh my God, they're violent, you know.
Billy, I just want to make a quick comment about there was a protest that took place outside of the Manhattan DA's office. I believe it was 2 days ago. It's a Staten Island artist, and he went there and he went in front of the building and he took a doll, a baby doll, and threw blood on it. And he made a point and he put 2 police hats on the floor and put blood next to it. And he was calling out Alvin Bragg, saying that, you know, you need to prosecute the criminals. We're having a little baby shot, which we know happened last week. An 11-month-old was shot in the face. We had 2 officers that were shot and killed, and he was arrested because he was out in front and he had a protest going on, and he was arrested. Now, I saw a video earlier today where he goes on and he says, there was some negative comments. Oh, why did the police arrest you? He said, stop that nonsense. I went out and I did a protest. I wanted to show support for the police. I wanted to show support against Alvin Bragg, that his policies are ludicrous. And I knew I was going to get arrested. It's okay that I got arrested. Stay with the police, support the police. The point I'm trying to make is that you have citizens, just regular citizenry, that is outraged about what's going on. It's common sense when you have a DA that's going to take a robbery first degree. A person goes into a store with a gun, robs somebody, doesn't injure them, and leaves. It's going to be charged as a petty larceny, a misdemeanor. It's ridiculous. That person that gets robbed, that gets a gun stuck in their face. Billy, you and I have interviewed many people that had that happen to them. It takes years off their lives. They're shaken. They suffer post-traumatic stress going into the future after an incident like that. It's very, very traumatic. And you have a DA that wants to bring it down to a misdemeanor, like equivalent to a shoplifting. Ridiculous. This particular artist, if you look through the internet, you'll find the story. You'll find the video of him doing the protest. But here's a guy that was arrested for doing the protest. And when people commented negatively on his social media, he said, no, don't do that. I'm with the police. I knew I was going to be arrested. It's not a big deal. I did it for a reason. I'm trying to bring attention. And he used some real dicey language towards Bragg. He wanted to bring attention to him. And I applaud what he did.
On the screen, folks, the wake for police officer Jason Rivera is Thursday, and I believe it's from 1 to 8 p.m., and the funeral is on Friday. I believe that is at 9 a.m. The wake for police officer Mora is Tuesday, February 1st, also at St. Patrick's Cathedral, and the funeral is Wednesday, February 2nd, I would believe also at 0900. That's police time, 9 a.m. Those 2 brave officers. And we also don't want to forget about the brave officer that engaged the perp. And I use the word perp with great glee because they don't want you. The kind of gentlest city allows criminals to carry guns and doesn't prosecute, but they don't want you to call them perps. Real with Robo, you all heard about the 9th District Council member. Kirsten tweeted, condolences to both cops and their killer's family in the same tweet. I could not believe that. She's a disgrace. That's what we're dealing with in this city. We're dealing with morons like her. And, I take great glee in calling her a moron because that's what she is. And if I was on the police department, I couldn't do that. I'd have to hold my tongue, or I'd be in CCRB having them take 10 days. Could you
Somebody
imagine
should tell her
her
how the
worrying-
mother could have prevented these two cops from being killed by maybe warning them that the son had a firearm in the bedroom, and maybe we wouldn't be here talking about this today. How about that? Instead of offering condolences.
Yeah, no,
Ridiculous.
she doesn't belong anywhere near the 3-2 precinct. She doesn't belong anywhere near St. Patrick's Cathedral. She should be escorted away if she's seen on site. All these people
Disgusting.
are trying to get photo ops, trying to get their ticket punched by being on the scene. But guess what? The police department doesn't want you there. And because you're what I call a wolf in sheep's clothing. You're pretending to be a sheep, but you're actually a wolf. She was one of the biggest defund the police people too.
Par for the course.
Yeah, let's hire the violence interrupters. They're more effective, horrendous, and look, I hate that sometimes this gets negative, but I think we have to speak for the police, for the NYPD that cannot speak publicly about some of this stuff.
You know
I
the
want to-
ironic thing about that, Billy? Somebody like that is against the police and says disgusting things like that in a tweet. If she becomes a victim of a crime in the next 5 minutes, the police will respond. They will do what they can. They will help her. We don't look at things through that type of a lens. Everybody's treated the same. That's what my mind was. That's what every cop I worked with was. When you have a victim, you do what you have to do. It doesn't matter who they are, what they represent. When they're a victim, they're a victim. And that woman that says these disgusting things and was obviously an anti-police, defund the police, applauding all of that, she would get the same response from the police if she calls 911 that anybody else would get.
Phil, that's 100% true. And of course she should get the same, but we also don't have to consider her a friend of the police because she's not.
Absolutely.
We don't have to consider Jamani Williams a friend of the police, even though he's standing on the precipice of the 3-2 precinct and pretending that he's a friend of the police. He is no friend of the police. He is none. I have a little bit of what Chief Anamone said the other night when he was on our show, and I want to just play a little bit of this. Because to me, he was one of the greatest chiefs in NYPD history, and he gives a little blurb on how we can turn this around, and let's listen to what he says.
There has to be, a change in the city, and it's got to occur rapidly. Billy, we don't have time to wait. I've got a lot of thoughts and a lot of ideas. Maybe after a little bit, we'll talk about it, but I don't want to see any more cops killed needlessly in the line of duty because there wasn't enough done for these cops earlier, either by the public, by the politicians, and even by the department, if they lack training or anything else. I want to fix this stuff, and I mean now. Let's get off our asses and get this stuff done. We need a sense of urgency in this city and in this department. No more, hanging around by the water cooler or the coffee pot. Get off our asses and get out there and do our job.
That was former chief of department, Louis Anamone, a real great street cop. I mean, he was on the street in Brooklyn when he started out. He was a sergeant in the 3-2. He was a lieutenant in Manhattan South, then he was in Manhattan South Narcotics. He was a lieutenant in street crime. Captain, he was always a street guy. He was a kind of guy that would back you up. Sometimes they'd hear him over the air. 3-2 CO holding 40. You'd be like, what? Holding 40, And
That was him.
That was Chief Louis Anamone. He'd be out there, and he was a cop's cop. And not just that, he's a brilliant strategist, and he's an expert on policing. He's an expert on disorder control. He's, this current administration, and I don't want to say anything bad about the new police commissioner. I'm impressed with her. But they should bring in people like Anamone as consultants. Bring in William Bratton as a consultant. Let's talk to them. What should we do right now to get this city right on track?
I would venture to say they would do it for free, Billy. They would sit down and have a conversation with Commissioner Sewell for free, I'm sure. And Louis Anamone, you can't say enough about the guy. That's a leader. That's a true leader. He wasn't afraid to take action. He was a four-star chief of department, and I doubt very highly that a guy like him would have knelt down with Black Lives Matter when all of that insanity was going on 2 summers ago.
John Donahue, thank you for the 1999 super chat. Why is an autopsy needed on Officer Mora if they know from the doctors who are treating him in the hospital? Rest in peace, officer. You know, one of the things, John, I don't know anything really about the autopsy. I know that his organs were donated, so they would have to keep him alive right until the very last minute to do what's called harvest those organs. So I don't know anything about the autopsy because I think to donate organs, you got to be kept alive right into the moment they take those organs out, and then they rush them to wherever they got to go. They keep them cold, and then hopefully it goes right into the person that needs the organ donation. So again, I don't know anything about the autopsy.
Well, I think the autopsy would be needed, Bill, just for cause of death. They may do it's like an autopsy review. I don't think they're going to go deep into an autopsy looking for a cause of death in a situation like this because it's obvious what the cause of death was. And, you know, Bill, you're making a great point. I think there was that when he was transferred, there was that little bit of lag in time because notifications have to go out. If they're going to harvest specific organs, there are lists, and those people have to be notified to get to a hospital that the donation, the donation, of organs, it has to take place rather quickly when it's removed from one body and placed into another. So that's why I think there was that lag, a day or two, where he was taken off life support and his organs were harvested. And again, 3 times the hero. A very unfortunate thing, but the man died a hero for sure.
100%, and it's just a crazy thing that we're here talking about this, but I like to be the voice of the department, and I'm not claiming to be, but I freedom of speech is a great thing, and you felt like when you were on the police department, you were not free to speak your mind at all. You were not free, and it's liberating now to be able to talk, to speak our mind. And I just want to put Officer Sulan on the screen because I can't say enough about this young kid, and I just think that people need to know who he is. People need to praise this kid because he was an unbelievable hero. And I'm going to play a little bit of this.
Who acted like a seasoned veteran when facing a nightmare situation.
It's a lot to take. It's a lot to take, and it's overwhelming for him as well.
Harsha Sulan says her younger brother is still processing it all. Friday in Harlem, Sulan was backing up his field training officers, Jason Rivera and Wilbert Mora. While Sulan waited in the living room with a woman who called police about her son, 47-year-old LaShawn McNeil opened fire on Rivera and Mora in a bedroom. Sources say Sulan, just weeks on the job and with 2 cops down, moved the woman to safety before returning fire, hitting McNeil in the head and arm.
He was put to the test, almost day one, and he passed this test with flying colors.
Retired NYPD homicide detective Sergeant Bill Cannon told me while Sulan wasn't physically injured, he'll still need time to heal.
You're going to need some help. You're going to need support. And you're going to need to try to put this behind you.
Everyone.
So I was on CBS the other day talking about that, and nothing's changed. I mean, he's a superhero, and but he's going to need support.
100%, Billy. And you want to talk about PTS? That man was in hell for a few seconds, and I think his training kicked in. He obviously got the woman to safety, and he returned fire, and he was able to take out the perp. God only knows if that perp had gotten out of that apartment with that 40-round clip and that AR style weapon that he had under his mattress. God only knows how many other people, civilians as well as police officers, could have been hurt or killed. So I'm going to give a salute out to Police Officer Sulan and tip my hat to him. Job well done. God bless you, brother. And I just hope that you're going to be okay. And I'm sure you will be. And there's there's support throughout the job, and there's support of the city, calling you a hero, and you are. And you're going to be all right. And I've been through a couple of shootouts. I was in a couple of gun battles, and it definitely stays with you, but you'll be fine. You did great. And again, a salute and a tip to the hat for Police Officer Sulan.
Guys, the other day, when we had Anamona on, I jokingly said my worst PTSD is thinking that I'm on the 8th floor of one police plaza and I turn toward the lectern and at Comstat, and you're grilling me. That's the biggest source of my PTSD, and he thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, but you got to explain that a little. That during his time, Chief Anamone's time, there was a thing called Comstat where precinct commanders, detective commanders would have to go in and they would be grilled about what's going on and what are they doing about it. So again, you're right. I can remember bosses that I worked for, struggling because they would get a call, late in the afternoon. Tomorrow's Comstat, and you're going to go before the whole entourage of Chief Anamone and the other bosses, the police commissioner as well, and you're going to be hit with questions. And Billy, from experience, so it was a little bit of levity. It was a joke, but it wasn't.
It was no joke
when it was going on.
No joke. Exactly. It's like, folks, anyone of you, if you're at whatever your job is, imagine being called up at a lectern by all your bosses and have them grill you on what you're doing. What are you actually doing every day with your job? And it was uncomfortable, but something. That's why the city turned around, because of that introspection and that amount of accountability. And folks, we're gonna be signing off in a few minutes because we always go long.
Billy, let me make one last point, because I want to talk about Comstat.
Okay.
It's a little bit skewed towards the chief because he had all of the statistics right in front of him, and the detective or the detective sergeant or the commanding officer, a lot of times they would have all the information that they had, so it was very easy to hit them with questions about what's going on. And I'm sure it was uncomfortable at times, but listen, it brought down crime. It was a great tool.
My final words today just be members of the 3-2 precinct, hang in there. Things are going to get better. And in the words of Terry Tunnock, always remember, we are the police.
Absolutely, Billy. Absolutely. My last words are going to be thoughts and prayers for the 2 police officers and their families that lost their lives. And everybody that's listening to this, all of us fans, please just support our brothers and sisters in blue. They go out there and they do a very difficult job every day. And we accept that the chances that something might happen and you don't come home to your family, we accept that. But these things that recently happened, they were unacceptable, unnecessary, and just keep them in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you.
Folks, this is Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories / Coffee with Cannon, Bitchin' with Bill, whatever you'd prefer. But we've been very emotional last week in the amount of shows that we're doing on this very topic, because we believe that we need to help speak for those that can't speak out against the powers that be. And that I take great pride in doing it. And not to be negative every day, but when people need to be criticized, we'll take that on our backs. So, guys, thank you so much for your support. God bless and have a safe day.
Stay safe, everyone.
One episode just ain't enough.